Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do another version of recommending books to video game characters, but we're doing a slightly different version of it than I've done before. And as you may have noticed, we do have a very special guest. I think he's on this side of me, the way this is getting recorded. So my partner Jacob is here. Say
Hi.
hello.
Hi. Usually you don't see me and you're still not seeing me, but this is my other me. So this is the first visual representation I think I've had on this channel.
I think so, other than the occasional like a hand or
And
shoulder coming into
yeah.
frame. Yeah. So normally he's not on camera. We finally found a way we can film together, and he can be on camera, sort of. But Jacob is a VTuber, and if you would like, I will link your stream
Yeah. Yeah,
channel.
have at it.
Okay, I'll
I'll
put it
um
in the
I'll I'll
description.
I'll show myself at the end of this. That way we can just call it even there.
Fair. Give you a little advertisement, a little free
Exactly.
advertisement. So we'll show his channel at the end, and I will also link it in the description if you want to check it out. But he does a lot of like kind of indie games. I know you've been playing a lot of like Neon White lately, and you started Pseudo Regalia recently.
Yeah, Neon White Suit Regalia. I do a lot of platformers, a lot of JRPGs. We've been hitting the Persona pretty hard.
Mhm.
So we've been doing a little. I do a little of everything. I do a little of everything.
Yeah. So he's got lots of fun things he's got going on. Although I think you're on hiatus for a little bit right now because
As of like 2 days
as of
ago,
two
I'm on
days ago
hiatus.
because of you know life being
Various,
hectic.
yeah. But I will be back sooner rather than later. If trends continue upward. But as of us filming this right now, I am on a little bit of a break. But I will be coming back hopefully soon-ish. I don't know. We'll see. We're playing it by ear. We're playing it by ear.
Fair. So what we thought we would do today was he's going to recommend me some characters to recommend books to, and this we're doing this themed around a specific game because we're long distance, so we're rarely in the same location, and so a lot of our dates are actually playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
So today's episode, he's going to pick out some Fortnite skins that I need to recommend a book to, and we thought this would be a fun way to do it and just something a little bit different. Plus, today, as we're filming this, you should be seeing this over this weekend. We're going to be on a trip together over the weekend, and today, as we're filming, is actually our 6 year anniversary. So this is
Yeah.
date night hangout time is making this video because we thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
So
So I guess for a full history, like the full breakdown,
yeah,
I started playing Fortnite over the pandemic, either 2020 or 2021, and I begged for years. I begged Hope to try it,
this is
and
true.
she
It took
fin-
me a long
she,
time to break down and try
she
it.
finally relented, and turns out she enjoys it too. So for the past, that's been like, I got you into it, I think, at the end of last year or the start of this year,
I think it was the end of
and
last year.
yeah, and we try, once every week, once every couple weeks, we try to do some Fortnite, and we just have ourselves a grand old time causing mayhem.
Really brings out the bloodlust.
Yeah, it truly does. But since I've played so much longer than her, I have a decent sized catalog of skins and outfits, as they're called in the game. So the plan is I have them currently sorted by alphabetical order, and I am going to pick a random. I think we were going to do like 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to do 10.
I feel like that's
Pick
a
a random.
reasonable number.
I'm going to pick a random 10 out of my collection, and I'm going to have Hope recommend a book for them based on their overall vibes, aesthetic, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Some of these I'm sure will be ones I'm familiar with because we play together a lot, but some of these I also suspect will be completely new to me. So I think it'll be fun to pick, you know, books for outfits I'm familiar with and ones I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
Be
yeah,
a little bit of
because some of
variety.
the because some of these I don't play that often, but they do look. But they've just because I have my like very small handful of skins I like to play as. The one I've been playing as a lot of recently is going to be selected. I'm going to go ahead and warn you now,
Fair.
but they'll be a middle of the pack guy. But it is so. So we'll see. Some of these I think you'll know. Some of these I don't think you'll have seen before. But it will be interesting to hear your opinion nonetheless.
Fair. Uh, Quick disclaimer, just because I'm noticing it as we're filming. Two things. One, if I look crazy, like looking off that direction as if I'm looking at nothing, it's because he's up on the screen. I couldn't get it to like swap directions so that it would be in the correct order for the way I was looking. So anyway, if I look absolutely insane, it's because I'm looking up at my Discord window. Uh,
And because she is.
that too.
Yeah.
Second disclaimer is that there's probably going to be some overlap with the books I've recommended in previous episodes of this kind of series thing I've got going. Only because I don't have a list handy of the ones that I've previously recommended, and I know there's a few that I recommended that are ones I love to recommend all the time. But I have opened up my full like read list on Goodreads to hopefully avoid recommending too many of the same books. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get a lot of variety here. And I've just pulled up that list. And if I look crazy looking that way, it's because I'm looking at the Goodreads list so that I can remind myself what I've actually read because I don't keep every book I've read on my shelves. So sometimes I forget about ones
How
that
dare
exist.
you?
So yeah. Anyway, those are the two disclaimers that I think we needed before we got started. Is one, I'm gonna look crazy throughout this. It's fine. It's normal. Two, there will be a little bit of overlap, but I am doing my best to try and minimize how many of the same books I am recommending all the time. So
Yeah.
there. I think that's it.
And I guess my one rule for this,
Mm-hmm.
I told Hope beforehand, I'm not doing any of the licensed characters. I do have a lot of those for Fortnite, but these are all Fortnite originals because I feel like with the licensed characters, it's cheating a little, not cheating, but it's a little easier. I want to go with the OG, with like the original creations, just because I feel like those are going to make you use your brain a little bit more.
Fair.
Because I mean, it's a lot easier to recommend books to Optimus Prime than it is to just La Creatura that I found in my skins list.
Fair.
All right, are we ready?
I think we are. I think we can dive in.
All right. Well, I've already picked the first one for you, so
Okay.
we're gonna
I'm
jump
excited.
in. We're gonna jump in on the first one that I've chosen.
I'm hoping that my audio is recording okay. Like talking and going, I hope this is working. Oh, Atlantean fish stick.
Atlantean Fish
I,
Stick.
I love Atlantean fish stick. He's one of my
What a
favorites.
beautiful. Ignore the backpack. That's my normal backpack. But but look at this beautiful, majestic creature. It is apparently
He is
he.
wonderful.
Yeah, I play him every now and then. Not terribly, not very often. But you have seen this one before.
I have. I do kind of immediately have something that I feel like is a good recommendation for Atlantean
Okay.
fish stick. And
Okay.
I have a reasoning for this. I want to recommend Atlantean fish stick, Sir Gawain, and the Green Knight.
Okay.
Um,
That was not what I was expecting, but I'm listening.
so my initial instinct is like he's dressed in armor, like he kind of looks like a knight, right?
Yeah.
So like my immediate thought is something that's like kind of historical with like battles in it, or like something fantasy. But the thing that I love is that Fishstick has such a bizarre face to him. He just
He
is a
does.
silly looking little guy. I love him immensely. And I feel like that combination of like the kind of armor knight like quality plus is a weird little guy is just so much Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, because just
Okay.
in general
Okay.
medieval literature is absolutely wild. Just it always is. Every piece of medieval literature I've read is weird and just a time to read. But Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is about a guy who goes on like a weird adventure because a giant green man showed up and was like, "Hey, let's have a little game of head chops," as my literature teacher at the time put it. Uh, Gawain cuts a guy's head off, and that guy proceeds to pick up his own head and go, "All right, I'll see you in a year, and I'm gonna cut your head off in return." And then he
Ah.
fucks off back to wherever he came from, and that's like it. And Gawain has to go on an adventure and find this like weird dude that showed up at like Christmas Eve, and deal with the situation. And it just gets like more and more weird. There's some homoerotic tension with another character. There's like this weird betting game that seems to be going on between a couple of people. There's just all kinds of wild stuff in it, and I feel like it is very much like the same vibe as Atlantean Fish Stick. It's like knights, but like make it weird.
So, I've not read The Green Knight. I
You
feel like I
should. It's
should.
wild.
I feel like I should after that description. I
I
know that
feel
there was a
like
movie. I know that there was
the
a
movie
movie of
is
it.
deeply weird and like not at all the same vibe as the original story.
Uh,
That said, I love the movie. Like I appreciate it for what it is doing, and also Dev Patel is wonderful in everything he's in. But it's very weird. I highly recommend reading it though because it's one of those where like the language takes a little bit of adjusting to, just because it's written in like Middle English and you have to kind
yeah.
of get used to that. I actually have a copy that's translated that you can borrow if you would like.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's like the language is a little bit odd when you first start reading it, but once you kind of get into the flow of it, you just kind of like move through the story, and it's just like very weird. Another one that I think like equally would be a good recommendation for this, but didn't pop to mind only because I haven't read the whole thing yet, is The Fairy Queen Book 2. Similar
Okay.
vibe. There's a knight. I think he's the Knight of Temperance, if I remember correctly, and he just like goes on a weird adventure. It's got a little bit less of the kind of like strangeness to it. It's still weird, but it's not quite as weird, I feel like, as Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Okay.
But similar vibes. Also, there's like an evil wizard or something. I don't remember much about him, but like he's just here to be malicious and have a great time doing it. So, Fairy Queen Book 2 also solid choice, but I feel like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is like it that is Atlantean Fish Sticks book.
Fair. Okay.
And I think you should read it. It's good.
Okay. All right. Let's scroll through the list here. I've got a few. Let's see. Um, you know what? Just because.
Oh, now we've got Big Fish Stick. We got
Yeah.
Fish
Okay.
Thick.
So let's roll through this. This is his normal look,
Mm-hmm. He's a gym
and
bro.
yeah, he's a gym bro.
This is
You know,
my
he's got.
favorite. Reef Cake Fish Thick is my favorite.
Okay, we'll leave it. We'll leave that one up then.
Okay.
So yeah, this is fish thick. Go ahead. Pontificate. I'm
Pontificate on the
interested.
fish.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what you come up with this one.
Consider the fish. I feel like this one's harder. Mostly because I don't know that I have a lot of books that immediately like scream gym bro to me,
Okay. Okay.
Because my immediate thought for something like that is actually I have just thought of a book, and it's a book I hate.
Oh,
However,
interesting. I feel like I know what you're about to say.
what do you think I'm about to say?
Um, dare I say, Snow Crash?
You are correct.
I knew that was what was coming.
First of all, the cover is just full of the same colors as Fish Thick.
Oh, true.
But the thing about it is that like I think like gym bro, and I also think kind of like dad sci-fi, right? Like kind of
Okay.
older classic sci-fi, but I think because of the colors of Fish Thick, of the like Reef Cake Fish Thick, my thought is kind of like that cyberpunky techno thriller kind of a thing.
Okay.
Because I feel like Fish Thick isn't somebody who like sits down to read a book because he wants to like think deep thoughts about life. I think Fish Thick is like listening to an audiobook while he's at the gym, and he just wants something that's like fun and easy to listen to, and he can just like kind of vibe, do his workout, whatever. And I feel like Snow Crash is that because it's completely mindless. It's a terrible book, but like it is just weird and silly, and you don't really got to think about it that deep because clearly Neil Stevenson didn't either. And it would be a great one for him to just like pop on his headphones, listen to while he's working out. And he, it's long enough he could listen to it for a few days, so he wouldn't have to look for a new book anytime soon. But also just like he's brightly colored, and my brain immediately goes like neon lights.
Fair. I was waiting for the hate on Snow Crash to start coming in.
Oh, I
You
hate
did
Snow
not
Crash.
disappoint.
It's terrible.
Well, no, it was. I couldn't help but laugh a little bit when you said he didn't have to think too hard about it because Neil Stevenson obviously didn't. That's
I mean,
so
he didn't.
funny.
He really didn't. Neil Stevenson wrote a book in which he went, "Hey, this would be cool," and then didn't consider for even a second what the implications of that might be. And also, the whole thing reads, I've said this every time I've talked about this book because I feel like it just so perfectly describes it. It
Hmm.
reads like he took a Religion 101 class and he stopped listening about halfway through syllabus day and then he wrote a book about it. And
Damn.
it's awful. But like I feel like Fishstick he'd really identify with hero protagonist, which by the way is actually the name of the main character of that book. It's hero protagonist.
I still
Um,
can't believe that personally.
I feel like you'd really identify though because Hero spends a lot of time training with his katana, and there's like some scenes of him like working out and stuff like that, and he's like kind of muscular, strong. He's supposed to be smart. I would argue I don't think he really is, but he's supposed to be because he's like a computer programmer. But
Fair.
he's
Okay.
also named Hero protagonist. I've never been able to get over that.
All right. So I've already found my next guy,
Okay.
and we're just going to go a little bit up the list here to Bushranger.
Oh, I like him. I think I have seen
This
this one a couple of times.
I had a phase where I played a lot as Bushranger, but yeah, he has several colors.
I love that one.
You got the
Autumn is my
autumn. He's got.
favorite.
All
So
right, we'll
like,
stick autumn.
okay, it's my favorite season. I feel like I have a really obvious recommendation that like pops to mind. I might try to think of a second one, but like the very first
Okay.
thing that pops to mind for me here, despite the fact that Bushranger is not a robot, is the Monk and Robot books by Becky Chambers. A Song for
Yes,
the Wild Built and A Prayer for the Crown Shy.
I was
It's the
thinking the same
tree
thing.
vibe.
Oh yeah, and big tree vibes.
It's like tree vibes, and the fact that he just looks like a sweet little guy. He's so nice. You just know he would give like great hugs and probably some good advice, and he'd sit you down with a cup of tea and be like, everything is going to be okay. And I feel like that's what those books are. Like,
Yeah,
that is the vibe. Um, that would be my immediate like knee jerk recommendation for Bushranger is the what did I just say? Monk and Robot books. It's like, what are they called again? Yeah, because I've read those semi recently, and I feel like
good books. Very
they're
good
really good
books.
books. I really enjoyed both of them. I think the first one is still my favorite, but I liked the second one as well. Um, just that's immediately like Bushranger just gives me like cozy vibes, and those books are just such a like warm hug in a book.
That's fair. I agree. I was also thinking the same thing. So
Fair.
I'm
We're on the
glad
same
that
page
we.
with this recommendation.
I was going to say I'm glad that you went that way. So I need to pick you out a humanoid
Fair.
character, a human character. So I've done two fish and a tree. So where's
There's nothing
someone
wrong with two
else?
fish in a tree, although it does feel like the setup for some sort of weird joke, like two fish in a tree walk into a bar. Um,
True. Let's see. Who do we all have here? So we have Slurp Jonesy. So we have this version,
oh,
and then he
that
also has that version.
okay. I don't know if I like his head exploding like that. That makes me slightly uncomfortable.
I wouldn't say exploding as much as is expanding and imploding.
There's definitely some exploding happening there.
So do you prefer like the normal version or the blob version?
I mean, I feel like the blob guy is cute, but like we've done several.
Okay, let's go with this guy.
It's like the outsider, but what if he was blue?
Yeah. So go ahead. Let's I want to see what you can come up with for Slurp Jonesy.
Slurp Jonesy. Like the thing is, like he's blue, and I feel like the black eyes and the leather clothes really give him like an edgy look.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of like something that has that kind of like edgy vibe to it.
You've already said Snow Crash.
I've already said Snow Crash. I can't say Snow Crash again. I feel like okay, I have two. I have two thoughts.
Okay.
The one thought is that like I feel like this guy would have like a guilty pleasure series that he's reading, right? Like nobody was allowed to know.
Okay.
When he goes home at the end of the day, he's got him some books to read that he's just like on his Kindle so that nobody has to see the cover.
Yeah, nobody has to see it physically.
Exactly. So my first thought, just I think because the tactical gear is giving me kind of like agent of some kind, you know.
Okay.
Uh, so the first thing I want to recommend is the Criminal Intention series, like just the whole
Okay.
series,
The
which
entire thing.
is just the whole thing. Mostly because they're like really short and bingeable. They're all like 150, 200 pages, and usually the last few pages are just like additional content from the author. But they're fairly well written, and they're like detective stories, and they're very much like what if Criminal Minds, but with queer leads. And I feel like they're very fun. They're very bingeable. They have that kind of like dark grittiness to them, and that kind of creepiness that like Criminal Minds has. But also there's like a bit of a romance in the center of them. The main characters are always kind of flirting with each other, and they're just kind of like easy and fun, and just like I don't know how else to describe them. Just like quick, easy, fun reads that have pretty satisfying mysteries, and they're really easy to like fit in between other things. Like if you've got a busy day, busy life, it's really easy to just like pick up a Criminal Intentions book and power through it. So it gives me
Okay.
like that vibe. And you know what the other thing it might be that's causing me to feel that way is that he's the same colors as the covers for season 1 of that series,
Ah,
because
okay.
it's like black and blue.
Maybe some like visual association
Yeah, I
there.
think there's some visual association happening there. My other immediate thought though is Hammers on Bone by Cassandra Kah, which is the
Okay.
first book in their Persons Non Grata series. I think there's 2 books in it. I haven't read the second one, but it's a kind of noir style detective story, but with a detective who is a like eldritch entity of some kind, and he's like trying to help a little kid.
Very
It's very
interesting.
weird, and there's lots of like kind of Lovecraftian monsters and things in it, but you have this like kind of hard-boiled detective agent guy who just can't quite convince himself not to be a good guy in the end. Like he can't quite convince himself to not go out of his way to help this child.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like that's the kind of general vibe I get. Like this guy, somebody would come to him for help, and he'd try to be all like tough and like a hardened detective or whatever, but like he'd help. You know he would.
Yeah.
He'd help.
Okay.
So
Very
kind of
nice.
either of those. I one because I feel like he would read it in like his off time, but the other one just because I think he kind of fits the vibe of the main character.
Okay. All right. So we have character number 5 coming up, and I'm still.
We're already on 5.
We are.
I feel like these are going quickly.
All right. Number 5, Mizuki.
Oh, okay. She's cool.
So
This is
here we
not
can
what I've
do.
seen before.
This is a battle pass skin I unlocked not terribly long ago. I think it was about this point last year. But we could do it with like the headdress and like the darker robes. We can leave the mask on. What are you feeling?
I like the headdress and the mask. I think that's fun.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Okay, so she's got kind of like oceany vibes. I get the sense that she was.
Yeah. Yeah. Her character description is the depth of the ocean, the rage of the storm.
Hmm. Like water just immediately makes me think of Into the Drowning Deep. I
Okay.
think also because she's this like pointy, scary fan going on, and
Yeah.
yeah, my initial thought Into the Drowning Deep, probably because she's a little bit scary, and Into the Drowning
Fair.
Deep is like a deep sea horror thing, um, which it's my one of my favorite horror novels. It's so good. It has kind of a disappointing ending, I think, at least for me. Like the way it wraps up, I'm a little like, oh, that was abrupt,
Mhm.
but it's very much like just you're stranded on the water, and there's horrible, horrible mermaids coming to eat you. That's it.
Okay. I can get the vibes.
It's really good. There's there's 2 scenes in it that are death scenes, neither of which actually have an on-page mermaid, that are some of the scariest scenes I've ever read, and they stick with me like so much. I think about them regularly. Very upsetting, like in a good way. So, like, knee jerk into the drowning deep. I feel like it probably would have, like, a better... No, I take it back. I don't have a better recommendation. I have a second one.
Okay.
Because she's giving me, like, the same vibes as another one where, like, I feel like she makes me think of a specific protagonist, which is the protagonist of Return of the Sorceress by Sylvia
Okay.
Miranda Garcia, which is just, like, a fantasy novella, and it's about a woman who is, like, the head of a sorcerers, like, guild. She's the lead sorceress, and then she is betrayed by her former lover, and he takes over her throne, basically, and she, in this novella, is having to reckon with the fallout of her own actions and, like, deal with the impact that she's had on other people through the actions that she took to become the lead sorceress.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like her vibe is making me think of that character, because that character is, like, very hardened throughout, but, like, also she's really trying, she's frustrated with herself for the things she's done, but she's also, like, finding herself confronted with the consequences of her own actions. So she's, like, learning how to be a better person as well. I think just because this character is kind of, like, she's the pointy fan. She looks a little bit like she'd give you the cold shoulder. She, like,
Fair.
kind of too cool for everybody, you know?
I get that. I get that.
So yeah, she gets 2 recommendations as well.
Okay, cool. All right, so since we're at the halfway past the halfway point now,
Moving on to
I've got to go with my guy.
Okay. Oh, it's Lizik. I love Lizik.
This is my for the uninitiated, this is my main skin. This is Lizik is my boy.
My main is Guff, so we make just a delightful team. I'll put Guff on the screen somewhere so you can see Guff.
Yeah.
But I mostly play Guff. He mostly plays Lizik. And it's a very much a team of silly little guys.
Oh
And we
yeah,
have a lot
very
of fun.
much. But yeah, so I would love to know what you recommend to Lizik.
I'm gonna have to think about this one. Because Lizik, I think the outfit very much has, like, adventurer. It's almost like, what if... Sorry, my allergy medicine is going off.
Hell yeah.
Lizik makes me think of, like... What I was going to say is he makes me think of, like, what if Nathan Drake was just a silly little guy?
Yeah.
Like, he is kind of a silly little guy, but, like, even sillier little guy, right?
I messed up. Okay, there. Yeah, like his skin description is seeking adventure and a nice warm rock to nap on.
I love that for him. I feel like there's got to be something with, like, some adventure, right?
Okay, yeah.
Gotta, like, really lean into that for Lizik. Because I feel like Lizik would love to, like, sit down and read an adventure novel.
I do want to say at this point, just as an aside, with this current, like, selection of characters I have on my screen right now, not only do I have, like, Lizik, a banana, but then you look at the licensed characters, and I have, like, Indiana Jones, John Cena, Katara and Korra, and Kabi Lame.
Great.
Like,
That's a
Nightmare
great
Blunt
selection.
rotation.
Okay, so I have a recommendation I think is a little bit silly
Okay.
for our silly little guy. But I feel like the Redwall books, which were, like, my childhood favorite series.
Oh, no, I see that. I see that.
They're very, like... Well, first of all, they're, like, animal warriors. And it's like little animal warriors go on adventures to stop the bad guys. That's it. That's the vibe.
Yeah, that's just Lizik.
It is just Lizik. It's just a little animal guy goes on an adventure to defeat the bad guys. And also there's, like, lots of really good descriptions of food in it. Like, the food in Redwall is insane. There's so many scenes of the characters sitting down for a meal and just having the most, like, decadent banquets and things. It's so fun. And I just feel like Lizik, with his desire for, like, a nice warm rock and also some adventure, I feel like Lizik would love the Redwall series because they're just fun. I do have a couple of issues with them in terms of, like, they have a tendency to basically say, like, all people within a specific group are good or all people within a specific group are bad. I think some of the later ones give a little bit more nuanced look at that, but it never quite like gets past that sort of representation. So like all mice are good guys and all rats are bad guys is kind of the thing that it does. There are some more complexities later on. Like there's I think it's not tag it is it Tagarung? I think it's Tagarung actually. That has like an otter who is technically a good guy species, who then is raised in with like bandit rats and goes on a slightly more complex adventure. But for the most part, it struggles to get over that. That said, I feel like that simplicity of it would really apply, or not apply, would appeal to Lizik. That it's just like fun, good versus evil adventure stories with like there are some stakes, there are some sad deaths that really like get you in the heart, but mostly it's just like fun adventure stories and the good guy always wins kind of a thing.
Very nice. And now for number 7, I actually am going to stay on this exact same page.
Okay.
Kato Thorn.
Oh, we've got Kato Thorn. Are we gonna do Vampire Kato Thorn or
Yeah,
Fuckboy Kato Thorn?
do we want to do fuckboy or vampire? I'm going to leave that up to you.
I feel like I like the vampire form. That said, I think the fuckboy is funnier. Also,
Fair.
we've had a lot of like humanoid
Creatures.
but not human. We've had lots of little creatures, lots of little guys.
Yeah.
So I can recommend a book to Fuckboy Kato Thorn as soon
All
as I
right.
get my words together and manage to speak full sentences. He is a weird one though, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first like villain
Yeah.
or like portrayed as a villain in
Like,
Fortnite that
I
we've
think
looked at.
because he's a villain and I know he's a villain, I kind of want to recommend something kind of like gritty and dark, or even
Okay.
like verging into grim dark.
God,
Just
look
a
at that look at that jawline. Look at those eyebrows.
true villainous features.
Yeah. Fuckboy through and through too.
True.
I'm thinking real hard about this one.
Thinking real hard about this one because I have kind of three thoughts that are all very different.
Oh. I have a feeling I know stereotypically there's one that I would recommend.
What would you recommend?
Well, I've never read the book, but knowing what I know about it, I mean, I feel like the meme answer is Empire of the Vampire.
Yes.
And that's as deep as it goes for me.
Fair.
And I was like, oh, look, it's a vampire.
It's a vampire. He should read a vampire book. I think you could recommend him something like Empire of the Vampire or maybe like Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia or even like Dracula. He's
Yeah,
a vampire
true.
guy. But I have like three separate thoughts, different things. So he's getting three
Okay.
recommendations. I'm not sure
Okay.
what I like best.
He's all the people. Kato Thorne's getting the most recommendations so far, huh?
Yeah. Because my like gut instinct for him. I wish you'd stop looking at me like that. It's that face right there is weirding me out. Like I'm being judged by pixels. My gut instinct is the girl with the dragon tattoo
Okay.
because it's that kind of like really dark, gritty, violent crime story. He looks a little bit like he'd fit in with the cast of the girl with the dragon tattoo. And it's just that kind of, almost like a grimdark, but like grimdark is typically fantasy, but the closest thing you can get to like grimdark in something that is set in our world. It's just that dark, hopeless vibe. And I feel like he would, that would appeal to him. He'd get along with that. So like that gut instinct, girl with the dragon tattoo. My kind of second thought for Kato is that like he might secretly root for the good guy if he's given a ruthless enough
Okay.
good guy. And I'd want to recommend him the what's the first book? Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. which is a kind of like post-apocalyptic feeling story about a woman who has powers of like speed and killing, and
Hmm.
she's living in the Midwest, which is there's not much of the country left because most of it's been flooded. But she's living on what were was previously like a Navajo reservation, but is now like most of what's left of the country.
Okay.
And she starts on a monster hunt because a very strange monster turns up. She's a monster hunter, and a very strange monster turns up, and she gets kind of sidled with. Let me rephrase that because I said that wrong. She gets saddled with a kind of annoying sidekick that she doesn't really want. But
Oh, wonderful.
there's this like strange monster that's emerged, and they go on like a road trip trying to figure out what this thing is. And she's a pretty like ruthless, um, aggressive person, and the way that the sidekick starts to balance her out is, I think, really interesting, and the relationship that they develop between them is really fun and really sweet. And I feel like Kato would like secretly root for a good guy if the good guy was like ruthless enough for it.
I
And
like
I
when
feel
you
like,
said that Kato kind of sneered at you.
oh, good. Well, he can fuck off. Uh, but I feel like Maggie Hosky, if he was gonna root for a good guy, Maggie would be a good one for him to root for. Um,
Okay.
and then my last thought is one that I just feel like he'd pick it up because he's an edgy dude. And it would be the I gotta remember the title of it. This is gonna hurt by Nikki Six, which is Nikki Six's book on like his art and on photography and his kind of like philosophy of life and kind of finding beauty in ugliness. Um,
Okay.
it's kind of it strikes me as like edgy enough that Kato would pick it up.
I mean, with a
Um,
title like that.
yeah. I've read it. It's good. It's an interesting kind of like look at the way that Nikki Six thinks, especially like in the wake of his multiple overdoses. But it's a lot of like his artwork is in there too. It's a lot of like these full page prints of his photography and things like that, and it's all like fairly dark photography. So
Okay.
I feel like it's the same kind of vibe as Kato Thorn.
Okay. Very nice. So we're gonna switch up tone for this next one,
Okay.
I believe. Zoe Clash.
Oh, she looks fun. She looks like she's a girl's girl, you know?
Yeah. The description is fresh fit, fresh kicks, and always looking for fresh adventure.
Fair. I immediate thought Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Miranda Garcia, which is
Okay.
a kind of like fairy tale road trip adventure story with a young woman at the center of it who is like it's her first time really leaving her family home. She and her mother moved in with her family and her mother's family, and the mother's family words treats them pretty poorly because the mother the family is kind of European. They're living in Mexico, but they're like Spanish conquerors that have or like descended from the conquistadors, and they are pretty proud of that fact and the fact that they're fairly light skinned, and so they mistreat the main character Cassiopeia and her mother quite a bit. I think Cassiopeia is her name. Starts with the C. I'm pretty sure that's right. But they mistreat the girl and her mother quite a bit because of the mother's decision to marry a local man who was a like an academic, and she
Hmm.
kind of gets this opportunity to leave home because she accidentally frees a Mayan death god from
Oh,
a chest, and the act of freeing him has linked them together. So she is slowly dying, and they have to go on a road trip to try to restore him to divinity so that she doesn't die. And
what
it's
a
it's a
what a
wild story.
premise.
It's really fun. I really like it. It does have this like very fairy tale esque feel to it. Like the writing feels a lot like a classic fairy tale, but
Mhm.
a very different kind of story, and there's a really interesting relationship that develops between her and the death god whose name is escaping me at the moment. But they have an interesting relationship. There's some interesting protagonists in the story that they're having to deal with to try and figure out how to get this guy back into the throne of the underworld. And yeah, it's just like it's very adventurous. There's also a lot of stuff in it about like kind of glitz and glam and fashion because it's set in like the 1920s, I think, in
Okay,
Mexico City, mostly in the kind of the area surrounding Mexico City.
a very
And
pivotal time culturally too.
yeah. So it's a really interesting like setting, and there's a lot of stuff, especially in like the kind of middle to later parts of the book, about her getting introduced to like the big city because she's never been there before, and getting to like wear new clothes and get a haircut and all these fun things like that, and the kind of relationship, the ways that like helps develop her relationship with the guy she's traveling with. His name is escaping me, and it's driving me nuts that I can't think of his name. Of course, his name is not. It's not in the description. Okay. Well, we're just gonna have to live without it. But anyway, Mayan Death God, she accidentally resurrects him. They go on a road
Oh,
trip.
I
It's
guess I
like
goofed up
fun
a
and
little bit.
silly, but also like really sweet and also really like devastating in an interesting way. So like it hits a lot of like different emotional notes, but has this kind of like fairy tale esque-ness about it.
Okay, very nice. All right, so next one here, we're gonna throw it up a little bit more. Imani
Oh, she's cool. I like the
is
kind of
cool.
neon lights she has on the like the shoulders of her jacket.
Yeah, so she's got a couple different colors here. You
I
have a
love green.
preference, like the green.
Yeah,
Of course, I imagine you want to leave the glasses and the squiggles on.
obviously.
All right, there you
Set
have Imani.
squiggles to yes. Okay. Now I gotta think of something else that's got that kind of like techno thriller vibe, but like a good one. Because I feel like she would appreciate a good book and not just a trash book.
Very good. Yeah, no, it's I feel like Imani can appreciate some of the finer literature.
Yeah, definitely.
In the meantime, I've got to figure out who is going to be our last character.
She reminds me a little bit, just like the
Actually, I know
design
them.
of her reminds me a
Hmm.
little bit like of Ropa Moyo from the Edinburgh Nights series, who I
Okay.
love. She's a great protagonist. Um, the first book in that series is The Library of the Dead. It's by
Okay.
Teal Huchu, and it's such a good series. But we're following Ropa, who is a ghost talker, and she like
Ooh.
makes her money sending messages for ghosts. And she like lives with and cares for her grandmother and her little sister, and she's constantly like looking for another side hustle, trying to figure out how she's going to make money to take care of them. And she's this very like, I would say generally kind of practical person, but she can also be a little reckless and does things without like fully thinking through the implications because she's a teenager and like a young teenager. So
Yeah.
of course she does. She does reckless things, and it gets her into trouble more often than not. But throughout the series, she really like develops a really great little friend group with Jomo and Priya, who are both also fantastic characters. And she like gains a mentor figure in Sir Ian Calendar, and just like there's this really great cast of characters that builds up around her. But like the design of Imani is making me think of Ropa because of the hairstyle being the same as what Ropa has. And I think at one point in the book that I just read, which is like the third one, um, I think it's mentioned that she has like dyed her hair orange.
Okay.
So, it's that kind of like brightly colored hair and that particular hairstyle that is the same as what Ropa has. And I feel like Ropa, if she could afford this outfit, would wear this outfit.
Okay. Squiggles included, right?
Squiggles included, absolutely.
Oh yeah, one hundred
Squiggles
percent.
included.
Okay.
Ropa, her whole thing though is that like she's constantly trying to make money because she's taking care of um, her family as kind of the primary breadwinner in the family because her grandmother is quite elderly and is not in the best of health. And then her little sister is obviously like she's like 12. um,
Yeah.
or like 11 or something like that. So she can't take care of them. And so Ropa is like, I think 16ish and is just constantly hustling, trying to make money to take care of her family. So she would probably envy this outfit. She would want it. I don't know that she
Okay.
would be able to afford it, but she would definitely like want the outfit because of
If
the
you saw
bright
something,
colors.
she sees something like this, she's definitely window shopping a little bit, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So that's like
All right.
my first thought for Amani. Also, I just love those
Okay.
books, and I've been thinking about them because I just read book 3 like a month or two ago, and book 4 is coming out later this year, and I'm very excited for it. So
Hell yeah. Did you have any other thoughts for Amani or?
I think I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Just because
Well,
I feel like it'd be one that like Amani would really connect with Ropa as a character.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
she because Amani looks like she's probably like a teenager. I think it's just the design is making her look like she's maybe I'd say she's maybe a little older than Ropa, like probably 17, 18. Um,
Yeah.
maybe 19. She looks kind of like older teenager to me. Um, but like I feel like she's somebody Ropa would like look up to.
That's
And
fair.
I love that for Ropa.
All
I
right.
just I love
Well,
Ropa. She's a great character.
we have one more.
Okay.
I already picked out which one. Monks.
Monks. Okay.
Actually, you know what? We're going to give them a classic look. Actually, this is a.
Classic monks.
I think this is a she. I think that we're going to give
The
that. We're
curvature
give
is
them.
suggesting female monkey.
Yeah, we're going to give them. We'll just go. We'll go.
We'll give them
They
a
them.
yeah. I like monks. I am gonna have to think about what does monks want to read. Send in the monkey.
And then the monkey.
What does monks want to read?
Because I mean, monks is we started silly. We're going to end silly. Monks is ostensibly just a sock puppet.
Yeah,
So.
monks looks like something that would be in a horror book.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's the like black eyes, the like little bead eyes.
Okay. Fair. I can
You
see
would
it.
see monks like sitting in a corner, and then later it would have moved somewhere else. Not that the doll itself is haunted, but just that like it's being moved around.
Fair.
But I like monks. Monks looks like they're very competent. Like they
Okay.
dive in, they get shit done.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the stance, it's the pose.
Yeah. The action pose.
Yeah. I feel like the silliness is making me want to pick something a little silly as well.
Okay.
So like I'm kind of leaning towards because it's giving me horror vibes, like it's a moving sock monkey, right? It's giving me slight horror vibes. I kind of want to recommend it like The Girls Are Never Gone by I think it's Sarah
Okay.
Glenn Marsh, which I read a few years ago. It's a pretty fun book. It's a YA horror mystery kind of a thing about this girl who runs a podcast doing like paranormal investigations, right? She
Hmm.
doesn't actually believe in the paranormal at all. But she does this podcast about paranormal investigations, and it's something that she's been doing with her boyfriend, and then they like have a bad breakup, and she wants to continue to do the podcast, and she gets a chance to go and help with the renovations on this really old house. It's like going to become like a small local museum or something. It's like a
Uh-huh.
historical site. And while she's there, she wants to investigate it because there's some rumors around the house that girls have died there. I
Okay.
think specifically by drowning in the lake. And she goes to investigate. She meets another girl. There's like a kind of developing romance between her and this other girl. She's doing her little podcast thing. They're renovating, and then things get real creepy real fast. And she starts having to
Okay.
question whether she thinks the supernatural is real or not. It's a little bit Nancy Drew, but with a supernatural tinge to it. And I'd also, if you get a chance to listen to the audiobook, if you ever decide to pick this one up, or if anybody wants to pick this up who's watching, the audiobook is great because it has the podcast episodes in it.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah,
That's a
it's
nice
got these
touch.
like little clips of the podcast with like creepy music and everything, and it's
Oh,
just really
nice.
fun. So it's like a really nice blend of like kind of creepy, but also just like really fun. It has the same vibe as like a Nancy Drew book, and I think it's it was one that I don't know that it's like super memorable and it hasn't totally stuck with me entirely, but there's a few
Mhm.
moments in it that were really creepy that I do remember, and I remember loving the podcast elements in the audiobook, and I think it's just like that nice balance point between creepy and fun. So,
There, and that's
which is
a
the same vibe that Monks gives me because it's like kind of creepy but also fun.
fair. All right. Well, congratulations. You have done it.
I've made it through 10.
You made it through a
Success.
whole 10.
That was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I really thought I would struggle more with coming up with recommendations for all of these. I think there were a few
Well,
that I've struggled with a little bit, but overall, this wasn't
well,
as hard.
for the people listening when this comes out, if you like this, we could always do it again.
We could always do it again.
As you see, I have a lot of
You
skins,
do have a lot of skins. We could
and I
also think
see.
about like if there's other games that we wanted to do it with. Like if there's games that you've played you want to show me pictures of characters of. Like
I
Neon
already
White.
know.
That's just the one that you played
Neon
recently, you would have.
Neon White doesn't have a ton. You want to know one that I actually think would be a good idea?
Hmm.
Valorant,
Yeah, we could
because
do Valorant too.
Valorant has a lot of very unique skin or unique characters to it. Those are not skins; those are individual characters. But
Mm-hmm.
they have a pretty good sized roster. They all have their own personalities. They actually have a lot of those actually have lore behind them. So I feel like there may be a little bit more to chew on with Valorant than with
Yeah.
Fortnite, because some of these guys have lore, a lot of them don't. So
Yeah. Fair. Well, that was a lot
so
of fun for me. Go ahead. I didn't mean to
shout
cut you off.
Lizik.
Shout out
Shout
Lizik,
Lizik.
obviously. Lizik is great. I love Lizik. But yeah, this was not as hard as I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It's fun
Oh
for
yeah,
me
I
to
did
like
too.
look at little cartoon characters and try to like come up with a book for them and justify that book recommendation. But like, definitely let us know down in the comments if you enjoyed this, if you would like to see us do this again. We figured out the setup for it now, so like it'll be easy to do more of this.
Oh yeah, we could
And
easily do this again with a lot of
yeah,
different things.
we could definitely do this again. We could either do more Fortnite or we could do this with other games. So yeah, definitely let us know down in the comments below if you enjoyed this and if you want to see more of it. And I think that's all we have for you today. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. Currently posting every Saturday with the occasional Tuesday video, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.